Motorcycles are pretty sweet, right? I mean, you get to zip around the streets on a two-wheeled rocket ship that costs less than half of even the cheapest sports car, and you can dust up on some serious rich people cars too. You get to pop wheelies, go racing, or just chill out and see what's over the horizon. Regardless of what you want to do on two wheels, there's a bike for you. Heck, they even make bikes for people who want the banality of driving in a car and none of the safety features. They're called BMWs. Here's the thing though, no matter how many beginner bike videos we make telling y'all how to get started, you never listen. I get comments from people who start on leader bikes and are just fine, bro, or people who settled for less and bought a Royal Enfield. Am I upset that we put all this work into beginner guides and you guys just flaunt all of our advice with goes into wanton abandon? Maybe. Well, that's besides the point. The point is, everyone gets into riding for different reasons, and we all have totally different experiences on bikes, so today we're going to do something just a little bit different. We're going to take a look at how we here at Yami Noob got into bikes, how we've changed as riders, and some of our favorite memories to see how different our experiences have been. If you want to share some of your own stories, we've got the best place to do that, and that's over on the Yami Noob Discord server. We've got thousands of riders from all over the world hanging out. We've got avid track day people, Harley Pirates, Jixer Squids, and ADV dads all under one roof. Somehow we've managed to crack the code and make them all live in peace and harmony with only the occasional roasting. The best part of joining is that you'll get entered to win our giveaway bikes at the same time, so click the link down below and join our community on YamiNoob.co. Now let's dive in with story time here at Yami Noob.
What drew me to riding motorcycles? I think I always knew I wanted to ride motorcycles. When I was a kid, I saw some dude doing a fat wheelie down the interstate, and it just got me so excited. Freaked out my mom, and I think from that point I knew I was at some point gonna ride a motorcycle.
Yeah, I think it was a combination of factors. I remember when I was a kid, my dad told me about how he had his RD350 back in Brazil.
It was a Tumblr post. I remember it was just like late night scrolling, and it was a Deus Ex Machina bird's eye view of a custom bike.
I got on a motorcycle simply because it was cheaper to park a bike downtown in Austin than it was to park a car. That was the only reason I got on a bike.
I think it's the speed, it's the cool factor, and I've taken away a lot more from them since starting, but that's what drew me to it at first.
I was such a noob at the time. I was like, you could put new parts on an old bike? Oh my God. It was just life-changing. So Tumblr. Tumblr was. It was like seeing boobs for the first time. I mean, it really freaked me out.
Yeah, I just think it was always just some kind of fascination, and there's definitely some sort of thrill of death and speed with them, and it just tickles some monkey part of my brain, Bang for buck factor. You can get a lot of go fast with not a lot of money, and I remember as a 16-year-old that was very intriguing, and I told my dad that I wanted to get an R6, and he was like, if you get an R6, you must find somewhere else to live. You will not live here if you somehow cobble together $3 or $4 grand and buy an R6.
I just saw it as a method of conveyance to and from the office in downtown, which is kind of lame compared to everybody else's responses.
My first memory on a motorcycle. You know what, I remember riding, and it was Minnesota, it was the prairie, and it was sunset. So you're just in this state you've never been. You're experiencing the road in a completely different way. You're not in a car just driving and listening to some music. But I was riding and I was going down and turning, and you can feel the temperature drop. All of a sudden there was this huge temperature drop, and it got really cold, and then you could smell like fresh cut grass and wildflowers, and I died a little bit. It was like the craziest experience, and I was never gonna go back to traveling like in a car after that.
Because I taught myself to ride. I taught myself to ride outside of doing the MSF course, and was just poodling around a parking lot. And once I finally had the confidence to go on the road, got my SV up to like 55 miles an hour, which is barely the speed limit there. And it just felt weightless. I remember at first it like scared me. I was like, oh my gosh, like the wind is like picking me up. And once you get up to highway speed and you start feeling it like lift you and you feel really light and there's so much wind rushing over you, I'll never forget that bit. Yeah, because just first time on the street, pulled out right over the 360 bridge, pulled through like 3 or 4 gears, and felt completely weightless. It was crazy. I remember I talked about it for like 2 days. It was like telling everyone I knew about, you won't believe how it feels to actually ride a motorcycle.
I'd have to say it was when I was about 8 years old. We had I think she was my dad's cousin, lived in Florida around our neighborhood. And she was dating this guy who my parents referred to as the scumbag. He had this like kind of slick chestnut hair, a couple tattoos, and I remember he had a motorcycle, and I thought it was very cool that he had a motorcycle. Because I'd never met anyone else who had a bike, never knew anyone else who had a bike, and I just remember thinking it was the coolest thing ever. And I remember it was a Harley. I remember it had Harley Davidson on the side of the tank. And looking back at it now, it was definitely a Sportster because it was a tiny bike. It wasn't a big touring Harley. So it was probably a Sportster from like the early 2000s. I remember we were over at her house one time and he randomly just let me jump on the back with him. And I remember going around the block on this bike and I just felt so cool.
I was riding from my apartment on the south side of Austin to my office on Congress downtown, and the road I took, Riverside, has this kind of downhill right-hander into a left-hand turn. And I remember I was going about 30 to 40 miles an hour down this road. It was the first time I'd taken the bike to the office. And I get mid-corner, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm coming in too fast. Stick my foot out, and I'm like, I'm going down. And I felt the whole bike tip over, and I was like, Jesus Christ. Total butt puckering moment, and then I got through it and I was like, wait, that was really cool.
My favorite memory on motorcycles, that's tough. I think it has to be the first time I rode my first Daytona that I bought. I just remember I'd been on the R3 and I kind of thought I knew what bikes were about, and then I jumped on this thing. My ass is like to the sky, my hands are like way down here, and I just remember cracking it open and being like, oh my God, and I just like hit the quick shifter and I was like, there's no way you can just buy these things. Like, this is unbelievable. So I think that's my favorite memory on a bike, just because there's nothing like the feeling of being on a fast bike for the first time. And it was just, God, it was the best. And it was just like a drug, and I needed more and more and more. Yeah.
There was this really cool day when I went to Atlanta to film with Chase on Two Wheels and Yami. And at the end of the day, after all this riding we did, we filmed with his crew, and we were gonna film a dual vlog for our channel that you can probably find if you wanna watch it. And for that whole dual vlog, it was like raining in the beginning, the sun was setting, we were all so tired, and they just threw on a couple helmets and went for a ride, and I just followed because I was hanging out. And we're all on comms, on Cardos, and they were going back and forth and filming a vlog. And I was probably 6 months in, and a year before that, I had been watching both channels like every day. I love Chase on Two Wheels, love the Yami Noob channel, and it really just came full circle for me. I was following them behind on this twisted road bike that I was having a blast on, listening to them, two fantastic vloggers, having a fun conversation, and I don't know, it's just this emotional point where I was like, man, this is pretty cool.
First time I got on my 919, I had been on a Harley 750 and then the Street Rod, which is the fast version of the 750. Fast being they increased the rev limit by 1,000 RPM, so they squeezed like 5 more horsepower out of it. And then I got on the 919, which was from 2007, and I saw one parked in my parking garage, and I was like, that bike is really cool. I want one. And I found one for sale for $3 grand, and I cobbled together the money as quickly as I could, and I went and bought it because I had to have it. I just had to have it because I slapped down the money and I was like, yes, this is my bike now. And I got it on the highway and I opened it up and I was like, Jesus Christ, this is fast. And then I grabbed another gear and I kept going. I was like, this is cool. And I hadn't even registered the bike. I don't even think I had it insured at that point. It was just on the way home after buying it. And yeah, I squidded real hard on it that day. And then I fell in love with fast naked bikes.
The night before we did the super bike shootout, I couldn't sleep because I was so nervous to ride the ZH2, and Lucas was like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "I don't know, man, it's not my bike." You know, that's the hurdle I get stuck on. As we're leaving, Yami's like, "All right, Whitney, hop on the ZH2," which was the only bike I was nervous to ride. For some reason, the Tuono, I was like, whatever, and the Super Duke, I didn't care. But it was the ZH2, I think because it was so massive, and it had a supercharger, so I just thought you got on it and died right away. And so we're leaving and flipping a U-turn. That's the first thing you do, you flip a U-turn. And I'll never forget that moment. I was like, why am I afraid of this bike? It's amazing. Like, it was so, it was cool to just shatter that whole experience and hop on it and be like, oh my God, this is fun. I, spent all night freaking out about it, but holy that's right, motorcycles are just fun. It was cool to hop over that hurdle.
I learned that I know nothing about motorcycles or what I want because I started on a Harley, then I got another Harley, then I got a Honda, then I got another Honda, then I got this, and then I got a DRC. So I have gone from cruisers to naked bikes to sport bikes to supermotos. I just don't know what I really want.
I haven't changed much as a rider, I don't think. I mean, I've gotten better. That happens naturally. You know, I commit to this craft and do some practice and try different disciplines, and I've definitely gotten a lot better. I've been on the bike for like 3 years now. I've gotten way better. I've gone to the track, gone off-road, ridden a bunch of different bikes, but how I've really figured out that I like relaxing long rides way more than I ever thought I would. I thought I was just gonna want speed. I've slowed down, and I still love going fast. I love going to the track, but yeah, I've slowed down a lot, and I think this bike is a good example of that. I bought and built this thing back up, and this is not a go fast motorcycle, and I just love it. Just kind of going out, not worrying about anything else, just where I'm gonna go, and yeah, that's what's changed the most about my riding.
Confessional. I have never demoed or ridden any bike I bought. I just bought it. And the only bike that I regret not doing that for was like a Ducati Scrambler. It just wasn't what I was looking for. So I was so aesthetically driven, and I don't care about brands that much. I think each brand has a really cool bike to offer. So I would see it, I would get a massive hard-on, and then I would just take out a loan and get it and not think about it. Now after riding so many bikes, you're like, okay, this bothers me. This is awesome. You start to pick up on the nuances and the personality of different motorcycles and what you like and don't like about them.
The more I ride, the more I'm realizing what I'm all about and what I actually like, you know. Over the past years, I've had the chance to ride a lot of different bikes in a lot of different conditions, doing a lot of different stuff. But I think what's happened with me over the years is I've just, like I said, honed in on what I liked and just kind of mellowed out with all of my riding. Like, my risk versus reward calculator in my brain is super different than when I was younger. When I was younger, it was all risk and no reward all the time. And I'm like, what are you getting out of this? You know, now it's to the point where, you know, even if we're out filming something with a faster bike, I'm always so cognizant of what is going on, what I'm about to do, how long I'm gonna do it for, and where it's gonna happen, you know, like trying to control all the variables. Whereas when I was younger, I just really would just recklessly speed a lot, all the time, everywhere. So that's how I've changed, I'd say.
Cool.
Where do I see myself in X years in my riding career? Spite, I think you mentioned it, you're like, Whitney, you're gonna end up with 1,000 fast motorcycles in your garage and you never redline on any of them. And I was like, yeah, that's my future. I was like, I just want a stellar collection, no retirement, nothing. I don't want a dime to my name. I want only my motorcycles to be passed on to my children.
Owning more motorcycles, not just like going through them. I want to like collect them. Honestly, I see myself in 4 or 5 years owning 4 or 5 bikes, probably, all of which are pretty cool. This is one I plan on keeping. Having a built SV650 is something in my near future, probably more within like 2 years. I'll have one that's totally spec'd out, suspension's all done, everything's done on it. I'm doing so much with motorcycles right now that, you know, I don't know if I'll elevate that even more to where I'm riding more frequently or doing crazier stuff, but I definitely see myself continue to procure cool motorcycles, probably Suzuki's.
I don't think this will ever go away. Maybe this bike will, I think, at some point. It's not long for this earth. I keep saying that year over year, and it's still here and it turns on, it does what it needs to do, but I think for me, track day riding and maybe racing as well will never leave. I think for 2022, I want to try more CMRA ultra lightweight endurance stuff, like the 6-hour stuff. That was some of the most fun I've ever had on motorcycles, is just whipping a 400 for an hour straight on track and just be like melting your body and your knees while you do it. But I think that'll stay there. I think, like I said, I'm gonna hone in on what I like more, and just instead of doing 5 or 6 different types of riding, I might decide where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna do track day stuff for this year, and maybe next year I'll be like, okay, I'm just gonna focus on motocross, and maybe next year it's like, I think I'm just gonna do like chill sport touring type of stuff, because obviously I wanna be a lifelong motorcyclist, and it's like, you know, I think it's just easier to block things off in big chunks like that. So I think that's how my riding's kind of changed, and I've realized I can appreciate almost any motorcycle now, except Royal Enfields.
Okay, where do I see myself? I see myself with a garage of bikes, each one serving a very different but specific purpose. I'm probably going to have this motorcycle. I want to keep this motorcycle till it explodes, because I just love it that much. And it's KTM, so it might be next week, it might be 10 years from now. But I really love this bike. I need to get another 919, because that's the first motorcycle where I'm like, I need to have one. And I still do. So I want to get another 919, and I'll probably want to get like an actual adventure bike. Something fun and big like the Pan Am, or a, maybe a GS, but those are a little silly. They're fun, but they're a little silly. And each one is just kind of wheeled out to go have fun in its element. Like, I want to take the Pan Am to the ends of the states and, up to Canada and wherever. I just want to ride and see what's over the horizon. And then if I want to go fast around a corner, I got this guy. And then if I want to just have fun on the street, the 919 is perfect. So probably a very specific built garage, but I don't see myself like falling in love with track days really, or becoming a super hardcore off-road rider. I think I'd be one of those weird dudes who takes a big heavy adventure bike down a trail it's not supposed to go.
The way I'd go about convincing someone to ride is...
How would I convince somebody to start riding?
I've been thinking about this. How would I get people to ride motorcycles, or get them to start riding motorcycles?
Okay, how would I convince somebody to start riding?
First, I'd try and understand what their motivations are, because everyone gets something different out of this.
I was on medication for anxiety, I had ADHD. You get diagnosed with all these things that are really just symptoms of existing as a human. And I think a really awesome thing, if you've got like a ruminator brain, or you're just kind of searching for something that is meaningful, like a motorcycle is the best gateway drug for that.
I would say that out of everything I've experienced in life, there's very, very little that feels like a motorcycle. I just came back from a trip from Sedona where I only took my road bike, my bicycle. So I was off a motorcycle for a good like 12 days, which for me is like unconscionable. I'm on a bike almost every day. And I remember when I got back and I jumped on just the desert sled, I just turned it on and I gave it a couple revs and I jumped on board and I just felt the vibrations. I rolled down the road and I cracked open the throttle. I was like, there's nothing like this. There's nothing like this.
It's not just about getting on the bike, but there's this huge community aspect to motorcycling. And that's one thing that really took me by surprise, was I made a huge network of friends through motorcycling, and I got a career through motorcycling.
You know if you're gonna wanna ride motorcycles. I knew, no one had to convince me. But you know, showing them the things that are not so obvious about bikes and how fun they are, how fun it is to travel around on a motorcycle and how easy it is to pull off a highway and experience where you are, more so than going through in a car or something like that. I think that's the first way I'd go about it, is explain the differences between what they know and what they don't know motorcycling can give you. So like traveling, touring in a car versus touring on a bike, it's just wildly different. And I don't think if you've never ridden a bike, you probably wouldn't imagine these differences. So yeah, I'd try and illuminate them a little bit more too, because some of the more subtle things and pleasures in motorcycling.
So it's like if your brain is hungry, I think riding a motorcycle is the best place to do that. If your brain is hungry and you want to like be stuck with yourself in a bullfighting ring, that's kind of what motorcycling is, because when you're riding, you are picking up on your insecurities, where you're confident, where you could work on some stuff. If you're sad and you're distracted, I mean, it's like all this stuff starts bubbling to the surface. And I think that if you should always be motivated to at least tackle that. And I think if you have anxiety or ADHD, you gotta get on a motorcycle. Even if you don't like it, you know, or even if you're scared to do it, I think it's important to kind of go to bat for yourself a little bit. Yeah.
So if you're like struggling to make friends, get a bike and go to a bike night and meet some people. That's what I did down here in Austin when I moved, because I was like, I've been here for 6 months, I don't really know anybody, I've got my bike now, why don't I go to a bike night and see what happens? And now I have my group that I ride with all the time. I'm actually a patched member in that club now. So it's really just a huge community that gives back as much as you give it. You know, and sometimes you don't even need to give it anything, and it gives back anyway. It's been a just really welcoming, cool place to be for 5 years now.
If you feel even an inkling of a desire for a motorcycle, it's every bit as good as you think it is and more. They're awesome. They're so much fun to ride, and I can't see my life without it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to have like no limbs for me to like not be on a bike. All right, look, you don't have to lie to me. If you had time for one Yamanu video all the way to the end, you probably have time for another one. You should probably just click this link and watch the video right over here. I promise it's gonna be good. You won't regret it. Seriously, you should just click it. I'm sure it's good. We only make good stuff around here. You should just watch it. Why are you still here?